All right, we're on.
We
Anthony,
are
my
on.
brother. How
Yay.
you doing? How you
Good,
doing, my
good.
friend? Cool.
Sorry, everybody, for being late.
It's his fault. It's him. It's him. Um, so we named this "What the hell is an SOP?" And I wanted to get your point of view about this for for everyone who hasn't really heard of it, but also the gift that it's been. And the gift and the difference. And I'll just say this before I get to that with you is one of the things that I love about SOP is it gave me permission to, it's almost like this permission slip to be as different as I am. It was this
Mm,
playground of where it was not about how do I figure anything out, but more about what question can I be. And I
mm.
love that about this energy.
Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. For those of you who don't know what SOP is, it stands for the Symphony of Possibilities, and it was created by Brendon and I's dear friend, Dr. Dane here. I don't know what, over 20 something years ago. And it kind of comes out of the energetic synthesis of being universe, the ESB. So, so for me personally, I always like to describe SOP. It's really indescribable. That it's
Yeah.
impossible to find the proper words, right? But the space that I try to explain it from is what it did for me personally as a class participant, like before I even became a facilitator of any kind in access. And so for me, it was sort of like this, it was like another and very different energetic resource to change the limitations in my life that I have not been able to change, like with any other modality before. And as a result of blasting through these limitations, like you were saying before, I got a greater sense of myself. I felt empowered, and it does create this space in your world where you're actually able to finally look beyond the tip of your nose and start actually asking questions as to, okay, what life would I actually like to create now that I don't have these like so-called problems in the way.
True story. True story. I remember being a kid, like young, probably like 5 years old, and I remember having this sense of like that request of the universe and things would show up in my world as if by magic. Like I remember this one story as a kid when my mum and dad got divorced, and I used to like to just go and spend a lot of time on my own and process things. And one of the things I learned how to do was teach myself how to fish. And so I went fishing one day, this 5-year-old kid, right? And I remember I was down there and I'd be like, I was catching fish after fish. And I was just asking the fish to get on my hook, basically. And I
Mm.
thought that was normal. And everyone's like, everyone's looking as if, what's this? How's he getting so many fish? But it's interesting talking about this energy. Um, how much was like tapping in, how much we've all kind of had a capacity to tap into it at some point in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I remember I used to cry because always wanted to be a Jedi, and I wanted to have like Jedi powers. And like when I couldn't like move things and stuff with the Force, I'd get really frustrated and angry that that wasn't a possibility, you know? And it's
Oh
funny
man, I
because we have
love
this,
that.
yeah. And then I remember reading in the Bible, one of the disciples was talking to some an Ethiopian at a lake or something, and then he realized he was late for a meeting, and he literally vanished and appeared at the destination that he needed. He transported,
Uh-huh.
right? And so I'm thinking to myself, how can I access those powers? Where's the instruction book? They left that out of the Bible. How can I walk on water? How can I multiply 4 loaves of bread into hundreds and thousands? So it's like I've always had this desire to have magic in my life, but more than magic. And not even from the standpoint of to have power over anybody else, but to actually create this sort of a world where there just wasn't any strife and struggle, and where whatever it is that we were being presented with in terms of our everyday life, like I had the sense that it had to be something else that's greater than this.
Yeah, true story. Me too. I remember always having that. I was like, my dad, as a young kid, he would always be like, his point of view was basically, there's nothing out there. You know, it was once you die, you turn to dust. That's it. You know, and I was always like, what? Like, it does not compute. You know, and it was always, but I had nobody around me talking about, you know, magic. But I like the way you said it. It's not even just magic. It was more about it was more about communion with the universe.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. Did I cut you off or
no,
no?
no, you're good. Go for it.
Yeah, no. And like, I like to, one of the first words that comes to my awareness, and this is not to be taken in a sexual way at all, but is orgasm. It's like an energetic orgasm. It's like
I think anything that you say is taken in a sexual way. So it's you. Like, come on, Jedi,
yeah, but
Jedi
this
Anthony.
time I'm all joking aside. I mean, what I mean is, when you look at the energy of that word of orgasm, which to
Yeah,
me is the creation of life and living. When you see the supernovas doing their things like out in the universe, when you look at our cells, right? It's the cells dying and forming new cells. And depending on the types of cells that they form depends on the choices that you make, and the points of view that you actually have will determine how the cells change when they develop. I mean, all this stuff is happening automatically. To me, that's like the orgasm of life and living. And so for me, the symphony, the SOP world, symphony of possibilities, allows us even a greater access to this orgasm of life and living.
I love it. I love that. Tell me about the first time you did the first session you did.
The first session I did, it was interesting. It was actually, I was not in Australia, but it was a class that it was back in the days when they had DVDs. And so I got the DVD, and it was a class that Dane was doing in Australia. And so
Uh-huh.
I hadn't even been to a live SOP yet. And I invited a friend over because I'm like, I don't know. It was just it was a class you needed to take to become a certified facilitator in access consciousness. So I was just doing it because I had to do it. I wasn't planning on where I am today at all, not even close with it. And anyway, so I had a friend come over who was involved with access, but she wasn't in the class. Oops. But I'm like, I need a body to practice on, right? So she came over. I'm like, just lay on the table when it's time to, practice. And then I blindfolded her, and I was just like hovering my hands like maybe 12 inches off her body. And I blindfolded her because I was like, my point of view is like, I got to see if this weird stuff works, And literally, like everywhere I had my hands hovering, never touched her body, she was scratching. She was scratching her every part of her body where I was hovering, and I'm like, wow, this is very interesting. And then, but then my very first live SOP class, you actually helped fly me out there. You booked my plane tickets, as a matter of fact. I
Oh
don't know if
wow,
you
that
remember
was a
that.
lot. No, I don't actually, but that was a long time ago. I was booking flights.
Yeah, you were booking flights, exactly. And
Man,
Dane flew me out to London when this whole thing showed up for me, where I was actually working on the guys doing SOP. And that was my first live in-person class. And I remember Dane had called me up on stage. Dr. Dane here, by the way, is the creator of SOP, as I said earlier. He called me up on stage and he did a session on me. Exploded my world. It completely exploded my world. I had so many awarenesses about where I was functioning from in my life, especially when it came to romance and love, even like my loving my parents and wanting to heal them. So much awareness came in terms of where I was trying to save everybody and try to suck the sadness out of the people that I loved. And I realized that all during the session. And it was amazing. And then my partner, which was interesting, he Alan from Croatia, I believe,
yeah.
who has no use of his arms or his legs. The only part of his body he can really move is his head. And wonderful artist, by the way. And he was my partner the whole weekend. And the gift of SOP is it's really about your being. It's not your doing, it's the being. And so between the session I had with Dane on stage, Alan working on me all weekend long, I walked out of there. I felt so raw and naked and vulnerable. I was literally shaking like a leaf for 8 weeks. I think I lost 10 pounds, but I knew that everything got stripped away. And I knew that was providing a space and an opportunity for me to start moving forward with my life and not be at the effect of the past drama and traumas that had been throughout my life.
That's beautiful. You know, I love that you said that thing about it's about being. Yeah, one of the things that we've been doing at some of the last SOP classes that I've been to was, it's like with doing the sessions, is just be with the person.
Yeah.
Don't do anything and just be with them. And it's interesting with that energy, because that I look at that a lot in my life, is where am I not just being with this? Because it makes, that you cannot cognitize that. You cannot explain how to be to somebody. It's done
Yeah.
from you actually showing up and being present, and being present in the moment. And I love that part also with this,
Me too.
as an acknowledgement of the way that you can create your life by being you.
Right. Yeah. And the gift in when you start, like, I didn't know what that meant when
Yeah,
Gary Douglas, the
me
founder of
too.
Access Consciousness, and Dane were like, it's your being. When I worked on him for the first time, and I'm like, I need to practice.
Yeah.
And they're like,
And how do I
actually,
do it?
yeah, they're like, dude, it's your being. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I'm a nice guy. Like, I was a widower at the time, And I'm like, is it because you feel sorry for me? I'm a single father raising 3 kids alone. It's like, what do you mean it's my being, And I didn't really get that actually until I got a glimpse of that at the very, very first Maestro class, which is basically an SOP class on steroids. It's the one class in Access that requires the most prerequisites out of any of the other classes. And so you have Maestro, and then you have the 4-day SOP class, and then the opening of the symphony class, and then the intro of the symphony classes, which
Which
is
is
like,
done by yours truly.
yeah,
It's
thank
done by
you.
you.
Yeah,
Epic.
super exciting. But these classes, all the classes, and SOP, they're designed to get you to start to acknowledge and get you to know what you know about you, your being, not your image, not Brendon, the label that your parents gave your body, but you, the actual being. And for people to tell you that, it's like, yeah, okay, cool, thank you for the compliment. But no, it's so much more than that. It's like, and the only way that you start to access it, no pun intended, access consciousness, is by being in that space of vulnerability and utilizing the tools on a regular basis. And I can't say it's one specific tool, it's all of them. But again, the space of the SOP is one of those things that creates that space for you to access your being, so that you actually get off of a table or get out of a class and you're like, whoa, that's me. But there's no definition to it. That's the thing. It goes beyond the definition. It goes beyond your parents' projections and expectations of you. It goes beyond your religion. It goes beyond your gender. And it's hard to get that in people's heads, but they just have to go through it. And as they begin to access it, they're like, holy shit, I know what you mean.
Yeah, totally. And it's that space beyond your mind as well. Like
Totally.
we tend to all try and use our minds as a way of finding the answer. That was one of the things I was just kind of blown away by with Access in the beginning, was empowering you to know what you know. And I was like,
Yeah.
nah, give
I
me
know.
the answer. Like, don't tell me to figure it out, because then it's like I'm already good at fucking my life up. You help me with this by giving me the answer, not what do you actually know about what's true for you that's going to create the life you desire. And I'm going to say this one thing. Gary said to me a couple of years ago when I was really definitely not being me in my life and really struggling with addiction. And he said to me this one thing that just sticks with me. He said, you know what? If you actually started choosing what is true for you, your life would take off in ways that you cannot imagine.
Mm.
And and I love to kind of let that sit with me, and and be kind of like some acknowledgement of what it takes to navigate your life. Because if it's not done from this space that we're talking about, from this space of what's true for you, it tends to not work out very well.
It's like a slow death, actually.
True story.
It's a slow death in many ways. And it's like people wonder, like, where mental illness comes from, where anxiety comes from, depression, chronic fatigue syndrome, insomnia, and even just body stuff. It's that very thing that you just said. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you're not functioning from the true space of you, it's like a slow death, because you're going again. You become sort of like the antibody against yourself.
True story. And you know what was interesting too was I never knew what that meant, true for you, because I always looked at, well, what's true for others as some reference point, like, or also what's true for what I've decided I am based on what I've defined myself as. And clearly what he was talking about, and clearly the thing that I needed to explore, was what's true for me as a being that I've never discovered, that I've never chosen, and
Yeah.
you're like, it almost comes with a sense of terror, but what I've learned is it's more excitement than
Yeah.
it's more excitement than anything.
Yeah, I mean, well said. It's like, gosh, how many of our choices and decisions are from reference points instead of just actual space? And
Yeah,
what if what's true for you is actually a 10-second by 10-second choice?
yeah, good tool.
Great tool. And I tell you what, that tool really helped me to, when I would sit there and wallow in my past and
Yeah,
be paranoid about my future. If I had 10 seconds to live the rest of my life, what do I choose? And it really got me into the now. It got me into, like, okay, what's true for me right now? And it really took out a lot of judgment in terms of like what choices I was making in the now. Because once I got into the energy of like, okay, if I only had 10 seconds to live, how would I really like to live my life right now? And it was amazing. It was just easy for me to tap into those energies that were me, beyond, like you said, the definition, the labels, the reference points, and all that stuff. So and I know it sounds simple, because people look at you like, that's not a special mantra from a guru, and you're not telling me to not have sex for 1 year, and to meditate on the mountain, while fasting for 30 days and no sex for 12 months. And you know what I mean? It's like, it's too
yeah,
easy, but
yeah.
it is that easy.
Well, it is, and it is if you it is if you're willing to let it challenge everything that you've defined yourself as.
Yeah,
That's
that
where I
one
would
too.
see because people would have this thing of like, easy is basically this comfort zone, and I know for me, I mean, one of the things Gary said to me also when I was early on in my sobriety, actually, he said to me, if you're looking for the easy choices, you're going in the wrong direction. And I was like, fuck, but I realized it was so true. But that thing of it does create so much ease in your world, but it's like that path of finding out what's true for you has to be, for me, what I've seen, it has to be done and definitely have the willingness for it to challenge everything that I've defined myself as,
Hmm.
everything that I've decided this is me. It's like, oh, what if it's not?
Hmm.
Maybe it's different. And that's what I love about SOP too, is it's really that thing that you said about 10 seconds, is it is this presence with following the energy as the way to create our lives.
Yeah.
I've man, I always, wished for something like that to show up, but never really heard anyone talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so, and going back to what I said earlier, like when, me being frustrated as a kid, like not being able to be a Jedi or something, using the Force,
I love that.
I'm being a goof. I mean, like seriously, it was like, I remember again, this was even before I really jumped into the SOP world, but it was really at my very first certified facilitators class in Costa Rica, and it was like day 3. I remember I could barely walk back to class. Like I had so much energy. I was like, my knees were literally like buckling out from me. And then I had to like get down on one knee. And in that moment, it was like everything was like pulsating. Like everything became vibrant. And in that moment, I was like, I got this awareness. I was like, holy shit, access is so much more than just getting you past your suffering and your problems. But there's actual, and magic's not even the word, but there's just something else that's available for us that could actually make our lives so much more joyful.
That
And that's when I knew. That's when I was like, I need to. And I remember I had the point of view, and I'm like, Gary was what, 70? I don't know. He was 70 something at the time. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I need to get around Gary Douglas as much as I possibly can, just because I don't know how long his body will be here on the earth. And I remember at the time I was still a single father, and 2 months later they were doing a choice for possibilities class. At the time it was called level 2 and 3, and I didn't need to go to the class, and I certainly didn't have the money, but because of that awareness that I had, I need to be around Gary, right? I threw the kids in the car. We drove 7 hours to Florida, and that's when the whole SOP thing showed up for me, where I started actually working on the guys. So I mean, and I remember that day when I worked both on Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and Dr. Dane. Dude, I felt like a Jedi.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, seriously, I'm just trying to keep it in layman terms for people who are maybe never even heard of Access. But like I did, I know it sounds crazy, but it's like if there's anything that can come close to using the Force, it's what we do with these tools, man.
But it's so interesting though that we would even go to, I know it sounds crazy, because for me, trying to use something as uh, compressed and contracted as our minds to create our lives, to me,
Yeah.
that is crazy. When
Yeah.
you talk about being the Jedi and like the Force people, you're like, I'm like, yeah, I want to be that kind of crazy. But I remember as a kid, and I still think about this actually, is I wanted to be Astro Boy. Did you
Okay.
ever watch Astro Boy?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Astro Boy is basically this robot child though that can fly, and basically he had me it could fly, and he would fly everywhere, and I was like, I want to be Astro Boy, and but that it was always like for me it was far less crazy to be looking at things like that than to be looking at the people around me who are abusing each other and were
Yeah,
living their lives so small. I was like, that's crazy.
I know.
Being
Yeah.
Astro Boy is like makes sense to me.
Yeah. Exactly. I know. I mean, the Force made sense to me too, man. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I just see, and then I go out in the real world, and I remember I would come back and I'd be so fucking cranky and irritable. I'd be
Yeah.
like angry with just, I'm like, what the fuck? And but I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for where we're at and what we're all creating together. And it doesn't mean that I've arrived. As I know that, I know that you haven't arrived, but the journey is just so
Oh
much
yeah.
grander and glorious than it ever was before. And
Yeah.
it's awesome to use these tools.
Well, and you can also you can truly start enjoying the journey when you stop trying to arrive, and
Yeah.
you stop trying to get to some destination, you stop trying to get some result or some answer, but you enjoy the moment. And oh man, I think you're a gift. And for
Oh,
this,
thank
getting
you.
this out there in the world, it's like, and I love the way you facilitate it too. Like the way that you can break down these energies in the way that you speak to it. Man, I've gotten so many gifts out of listening to you and being present with you with that stuff. So
Thank you. Thank you. Ditto, man. I mean, I'll tell you, look, this is what's showing up in my life, not just with me doing the symphony classes, but it's like just having friends like yourself and the beautiful friends that we have all over the world, where we're on this journey of consciousness together, and
right.
in a very imperfect way, which is fine. It's not about being perfect, right? But it's like,
Oh,
what a
true
gift,
story.
man. What a
Yeah.
gift. It's what I've always desired. I mean, I used to have on my vision board back in the day, long before Access. Like I wrote, I want to meet beautiful people choosing consciousness from all over the world. And that's what's showing up in my life. It's like, how did I get so lucky? And it's like I can rest at night now because I don't have to have like my hometown be the people who are on this journey with me anymore. Now the world is actually my oyster, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm just grateful to have met all you guys and to be in this together. And I've always had that point of view, like we're fucking in this together, man. Because I spent a lot of my life feeling alone.
Me
You know?
too. True story. You
So
know, and I love that. And I love the thing that you said about gratitude too. It's, man, wonder how much more we could be grateful for today.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I just planted more trees. I finally got bamboo into my backyard. I've been wanting bamboo, and I ran out of space because I've been planting trees and flowers everywhere. And I'm like, oh man, the bamboo is calling me. And I finally, but it's like little things like that, going out in my yard and watching the wind blow through the things that I've planted into the earth. It's like, it's just exhilarating.
Yeah.
It's, it's like simple things now, but it's also the grand things as well that we have available, which people don't know. They don't know because they're say, but you don't know my story. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know the abuses I've had. And guess what? I get that, but that does not have to dictate your future.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and we got the tools there to man, we got the tools there to change anything. And I think both of us have got unique perspectives with a lot of the different stuff with mental health and and just different things. We've both got very unique backgrounds, and so for anyone listening, we get it.
Yeah.
We get all that stuff, but we also get how detrimental it is to your future when you're not willing, when you let the past dictate it. And I love seeing what you've chosen. um Man, talk about fucking courage.
Thank you.
And
Well,
what else is possible?
well, and that's the gift of when you start to access your being and like, and it's also nice to know that Gary and Dane have your back too. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's like I don't know that I could have done it out without having them as a resource. Because when I felt like the biggest piece of shit on this journey, it was like they had the space of no judgment, and they
Yeah.
were willing to dig their heels in and be present with me, and never made me wrong for wherever I was. And so that is a gift in and of itself. And then along the way, as you start to actually access the being, as you start to access the possibilities, symphony of possibilities, for me, what starts to happen, you talk about courage. I don't know if it was so much courage other than it was like, I don't care. At that point, it's like, I don't give a shit who's judging the shit out of me. I know people are going to vilify me. I know people are going to want to cut my balls off, but it's like, I'm too busy having fun. And at that time, I know these guys see something in me that I don't see in myself yet, but I'm going to do whatever the fuck I can to start perceiving whatever the fuck they saw in me that I couldn't see. But I always somehow knew it was possible.
Yeah.
But as you know, we had to go through this road. We continue to go through this road and journey of vulnerability and looking at our shit and being willing to be present with it and vulnerable and ask questions. And as a result of that, I don't see it as courage. I just see it as this thing where I'm having too much motherfucking fun, even though I'm really uncomfortable, to give a shit if people are judging me, because I would let that stop me in the past because I needed everyone to like me. I needed everybody to like me.
Me too, brother. Oh man, I know about that one where it's like basically everything filters through how's somebody else going to see it.
Totally.
It was never, the thing I'm really grateful for that I'm finally beginning to get to in my world is this space of actually liking who I am.
Mm.
But not liking certain things about me or liking what I can judge myself as good, or like actually liking my being. And that's taken some work. And also, it is that thing of really getting to, okay, what's valuable to me, my point of view about myself or other people's points of view about me. I would say that part is well, I would say
that's the valuable thing there is what you just said. That's the valuable product right there, is you acknowledging you. What do you perceive, know, be, and receive about you, not what other people say or think or project. It's actually meaningless.
True story. And also recognizing that it's a choice.
That too.
Actually going, you know what, I have that thing that you talked before about 10 seconds. I have 10 seconds to live my life. Am I going to judge me, or am I going to, explore? Am I going to be in question? Am I going to ask for, what's it going to take for more of me to show up today? Love it.
I love it too. I'm so grateful. I mean, I don't know how long you've been in Access, but it's been 11 and a half years now. Long time. But every other modality I'd ever done before is like, I probably lasted anywhere from 1 to 3 years. And because when the shit hit the fan, it didn't fucking work. The tools weren't strong enough. And to me, it's this is the most powerful stuff I've ever come across so far. And that's why I'm still here. That's why I closed my chiropractic practice down to do this, full time, and it's just been a gift.
Man, I love it.
So we got this awesome class in Saudi that you and I are going to be facilitating.
Oh, together. Yes. And it's online.
Yeah, it's online.
You can watch that bad boy anywhere in the world. I'm pumped about doing this with you.
Yeah.
Seriously pumped about doing that. And
and the body class. And then we're going to be doing a 3-day body class together too.
So Anthony and I have a 3-day body class coming up in Saudi Arabia. I think it starts on the 18th, 17th, I don't know, of August. We have an intro class that we're doing. We've never done this together. We're doing a Symphony of Possibilities intro. We're going to be live streaming it around the world. You can jump on anywhere and check this energy out, even if you've never heard of it. If you wanted to be Jedi, if you wanted to be have the Force be with you, or you wanted to be Astro Boy, or you wanted to be Little Miss Pony, or whatever the hell you wanted to be as a kid, welcome. There we go. We can put that as SOP. Explore your superpowers. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, check it out with us. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
And you, my brother, thank you for being you.
Pleasure. Likewise. Awesome. Thank you.
Ciao.
See you later.
Bye-bye. See you later.